All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the recap. Michael DeAngelo and Big D Daryl Ortiz. Happy New Year, Big D. How you doing?
Happy New Year. Doing great. How about yourself?
I am living the dream. It's exciting to be in 2024, and exciting to actually have like wrestling on this week because we had to wait a whole week with all the
Yeah.
recap shows that were going on. So, started the
Yeah.
new year off with a bang. If you didn't get a chance to check out our prediction show, go back and watch that real quickly because you're going to see some themes here. We did pretty good in terms of being able to predict Raw Day
Yeah.
1 and SmackDown New Year's Revolution. But we're just going to dive right into it. Big
Yeah.
D, what was going on Raw? Take us through what happened on Raw
So
Day 1.
yeah, I mean, Raw Day One was a decent show. Pretty good. I was a little happy with it, but I thought there was a lot going on in terms of like a new theme and that they're doing commercial breaks and picture in picture now for that. Pretty much the entire show
Yeah.
was like picture in picture ad breaks. Like it was ridiculous, but
At least
I
they gave
mean,
us picture in picture versus just disappearing for 4 minutes and then coming back. But I picked
yeah,
up on that too because they used to do picture in picture more. And I
yeah.
was like, wait a second. They're doing like picture in picture promo or ad breaks and cool. I get to see what's happening now, but it felt like too many breaks, which is, I know
It
they got to pay the
did.
bills.
I get it, but we opened up again, of course, with the where is it? There we go. Becky Lynch and Nia Jax. The whole this was supposed to be the blow off match between, the punch from 5 years in the making and all that good stuff. It was kind of a weird video package going on there. I don't know what they were trying to do, but started after the video package started after Becky began her entrance, and then they kind of did a little recap of what happened with the feud, and then she was in the ring afterwards. So it was kind of weird. So again, Nia being shown as the more powerful, overpowering person. Lots of time spent in picture commercial break. They did try to like cue that Nia can't punch her because she hit her hand on the ring post. They did little spots like that. Tried to do the Becky hit to disarm her at one point, and again playing to the arm, but none of that really mattered because at the end of the day, it just took a Rocky Balboa uppercut and Becky was out like a light. Nia hits the Annihilator just for good measure, and I was wrong in this one. I thought Becky was going to take that one and
Me
keep.
too.
I thought, yeah, but I guess they want Nia to go over um, big. I guess so. Yeah, Nia steals the win with a uppercut and an Annihilator. So I was shocked.
I was shocked too. Is the best way to put it because you and I both got this one wrong, and
Yeah,
I thought it was this foregone conclusion. Becky was gonna win, and the more I thought about it after it was over with, because Nia won clean. Like there wasn't
she did.
shenanigans, there wasn't
Yeah, no,
cheating. It was a back and forth match. It was a good match. It was back and
yeah, it
forth,
was.
and
It was a good
then
match.
Nia won clean. And when I think
That
back
was
to
the
it, I'm
hard
like,
part.
well, good because my biggest criticism, as you all know, was how do you really sell me on the fact that Becky's a threat to Nia since we know what happened? And I'm like,
Right.
good, she should have won. And
Yeah.
so this actually made sense when it happened. And plus, now it doesn't make Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark getting jobbed out to Nia Jax. That wasn't for nothing. So now you've got Nia.
Right.
She's won three in a row, three pretty dominant wins in a row. So
Yeah.
I guess my question, Big D, is so where are they going with this? Like, are you going to take her now and put her up against Rhea Ripley? Like is that where we're headed? Because
I
I
think
think the
that's the end
natural
route.
progression would be you beat Becky Lynch, so now you
Yeah.
got to move on to Rhea. Rhea's the champion. Rhea's been running through everybody, and it's always about her physical dominance. She can't
Right.
physically dominate Nia Jax, so is this the next feud?
I think that's what they're trying to go to, right? They're trying to build Nia as this unbeatable heel, and Rhea's been built up as the pretty much the same thing. So I think that's going to
Yeah,
be where they're going to want to go with it. But how they get there will be interesting because if you think about it, yeah, they pretty much have both had the same path. I mean, they've both been doing the exact same
yeah,
thing. Only difference is that Nia got a tougher win out of Becky, than Rhea did. So now, or I should correct myself. She got a tougher beat. She got a tougher win beating Becky than Rhea did beating anybody she's beat recently, right? So I
yeah,
feel like one
yeah.
can argue that, yeah, beating the people that you just randomly call out. I mean, Rene Dupree, or yeah, Rene Dupree, yeah, that wasn't even like that was just like a squash match waiting to happen, you know. So and it was so that
Yeah.
could be Naya's argument that she's like, hey, I've beaten tougher people, I've beaten tougher opponents. So I mean, maybe they do go that route. I don't know if Naya calls her out or how that goes down. Maybe it goes down in the Rumble. They haven't announced it for the Rumble yet. I don't think Rhea's defending at the Rumble
Yeah.
just yet. So that may be an opportunity right there. That may be her Rumble match for all we know. So that may be it. We'll see. We'll
Well, and
have to
then
wait and see.
who's the face and who's the heel? I assume, like, are they trying to do like
Rhea's gonna
a
be
face turn
like a
for
heel.
Rhea Ripley?
No, I think they'll leave it as a heel versus heel dynamic. But I just think Rhea's gonna get the bigger pop than Nia because people just hate Nia. So
Oh yeah. Well, people dislike Naya, and that's where I was like, are they? Is the goal here to make her an anti-hero,
right,
and but kind of have her be somewhere in between? And is this kind of the Judgment Day? They've had some feuding between her and Damian Priest about who's really running the
right,
show. Do you play into that
maybe,
and say, oh
yeah,
well, they start kind of flipping on Rhea? Rhea turns a little bit. There's some interesting things they could do there,
yeah.
but it does
There's
seem like
lots.
that's got to be the next step.
I mean, it has to be at this point. I don't think there's anybody else for Nia to beat. I don't think there's anybody else for Rhea to beat. So, I mean, we'll
No,
see. So, moving on, there
we'll
we
see.
had a recap of the Nightmare Before Christmas, which was again one of my favorite things with what they're doing with Shinsuke and Cody Rhodes. I just think it's awesome. Again, loving the comics, loving the animation. Like that's all cool and awesome. But again, Cody, you knew he was coming out for a fight. He came out in ring gear to cut the promo, and Shinsuke's like, nah, not yet. And so he's challenging him to next week. So we'll see on Monday if that does come to fruition. I hope not. I hope it blows over at the Rumble. I hope really that's what they do it to. Maybe like a falls count anywhere, or maybe some kind of Bray Wyatt esque match, right? Like almost like a funhouse match kind of,
Mm-hmm.
or a boiler room brawl. That would be a nice little old school match there. However, I have been seeing in live events they've been doing a bull rope match, so that
Mm.
could be it too.
So
So
maybe they're working up to that one. Well, didn't Cody
maybe.
did Cody declare for the Rumble already to be in
Yeah,
the
he
actual
did.
Rumble match? I'm trying to
He
remember if
did.
he did. So
Yeah,
that's where I'm like, do they scrap that? Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Rumble and how that's going to be changing later,
yeah.
potentially with some of the other announcements, some of the other things that happen on Monday night. But it's hard to say because I feel like, do you drag this out to the Rumble? But if you do, then Cody shouldn't be in the Rumble match. If
Right.
they're doing it with Cody and Shinsuke, but I mean, you could technically have him do both,
I mean, yeah, but to
and
say
it's
it
looking
wouldn't
like
be the
Cody
first
probably
time.
wouldn't win it at this point. So
No,
no,
I
it
mean it
wouldn't.
wouldn't be it wouldn't
I
be
mean,
the
Mick
first
Foley
time
was
they
in it
have somebody.
was in it 3 times. Mick Foley was in one Rumble
Consecutive.
3 times, so you
Yeah,
can you can do whatever you want. But
apparently.
we'll see.
Yeah. So then after that, we had a tag team match with Kofi and Jey Uso against Imperium, Kaiser and Vinci. Again, I love Kofi. I love Jay. I love when they tag team. But wasn't the whole point of moving him to Raw and calling him main event Jey Uso so that he can be a main eventer, not another tag teamer? Like he left a tag
Hmm.
team to be solo, but he's really a tag team, So it's that really
Yeah,
irks me. I hate that they do that. It's just so annoying because I mean he is a pretty decent singles competitor, and if you either need a, I think they're afraid to pull the trigger on it. But in my head, it's like if you're gonna make him a main event guy, then make him a main event guy and just do it. But obviously there's some
yeah,
hesitation, which is why I think you have all the tag teams going on, and I just think that eventually it's gonna get stale. It's kind of already in my book starting to feel that way. But yeah, but nonetheless, they had Kofi take pretty much the brunt of the office early on from Imperium. Again, picture in picture commercial break on this one too. What
yeah,
seemed kind of, I feel like this match ended before it could really get started, and it was for a legitimate
yeah.
injury.
It did.
It
Hmm.
looked crazy, right? So Vinci goes off at the top and gets a drop kick midair by Kofi, which is well timed, well done. But it looks like I looked back at it and it looks like the way he landed, his head just like he didn't tuck his chin, his head just bounced off of that mat. Pretty
Yeah,
ugly. He looked out of it. It looked like a concussion almost, and the ref called the match, and you could tell it was legit and not it was legit. It wasn't a work because I mean, even Kaiser got in the ring to like go, and the ref's like, no, 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 stop, stop, stop. Like so, like they ended the
Yeah.
match real awkwardly. So I
Well,
mean,
the doctor got in the
yeah,
match immediately, like even
yeah,
while it was still going on, and
yeah,
that's where you saw the ref do the X, so you're like, and
yeah.
the bad thing is WWE's used that before on
They have
fake outs where it's like, no, you're only supposed to do that for a legitimate injury,
right.
so, but it happened so fast. And
It did.
then it's like bang bang, and to your point, when I saw that, I was like, did he bang his back of his head off of the canvas? And obviously there was the connection with the drop kick, but it didn't feel like that was it. It felt like
No,
it was like bang bang and he hit his head
it
off
was
the
a
back of
bad
the
landing.
canvas,
Yeah,
and then he was dazed, and nobody realized he was hurt except for the ref and the doctor
mm.
because everybody else kept going, so there was a
Thankfully,
lot of
yeah.
confusion at the end of that match. Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully they did notice, and thankfully the ref, did stop it. I mean, we don't want him hurt, so hopefully he feels better. I think he tweeted
Yeah,
out
yeah,
shortly after that. I think he tweeted out, he's, thank you, but he's okay. So that's a good sign. Maybe
yeah.
just got banged up. He'll probably be
That's a
out
great
for a couple
sign.
weeks. So unfortunate, but
Yeah, and
risks of
it
the
was a
trade.
scary moment.
Unfortunately, it was. He looked he
Scary
really did
moment.
look out
Kids
of it.
don't try this at home.
Yeah,
There used to be the little disclaimer that would play about don't try this at home. These are trained professionals, and they would show that.
then they bring it back.
Something that seems pretty routine, you can get pretty badly hurt. So, our best wishes to speedy recovery. It sounds like he escaped the worst of it, but yeah,
Yeah. So on to that, we had Miz come out to do Miz TV with Judgment Day, but again, came out in ring gear, so we know what that means. He goes and R-Truth comes out, which again, I love R-Truth. I love the way he comes out and the way he can just hold his face straight with all the stuff he does. It's hilarious the way he does it. Talking about how he's their PR team, he's their marketing team. He does everything on the back end, and of course that brings out JD McDonough and Dom, and they're like, "You don't even here. You don't belong here. Whatever." And of course, R-Truth is like, "You lost the loser leaves Judgment Day match, so you're not in Judgment Day anymore." So, of course, a lot of back talk. So they bring back the referee. Time for a awesome Truth reuniting tag team
reunion
action there. Yeah, so against JD and Dom. What I liked about it though, the match was it was okay. It was pretty good. One of those impromptu where it's coming, but it's still impromptu. But what I liked about it is R-Truth's comedy in it, like standing in the neutral corner because he didn't want to get still Judgment Day, and then going to Dom's corner. Dom's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No, you're not in Judgment Day. Get out of here." He's like, "This is my corner." Like, stuff like that. That was really cool, really fun to watch. It was just a nice little break from everything. A nice little comedy push after the scary moment with Vinci. So that was pretty good. Again, pretty good match. More picture-in-picture commercial breaks, but it was a short match. Of course, Miz and R-Truth win this one, making Dom and JD McDonough look bad. So I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that. But
yeah.
hey,
This was enjoyable. This was fun, and that's why I was like, I really liked it. Like it was light. The match was fine. It was the comedy elements. R-Truth is very funny. Everything that he does is funny. Obviously, he and the Miz have good chemistry together because they've tagged before. Dominic Mysterio is a certified heat machine, so just him getting out there and trying to talk and getting just booed out of the building is just the greatest thing ever. So, like everything about this, like this is pro wrestling. This is stuff that I enjoy. So I had a lot of fun with this. And Ron Killings, pun intended, is still killing it at 51 years old. The fact that he's 51 and he can move as well as he moves and go out there and wrestle the way that he does and still do the splits and all that, more power to him. So I thoroughly enjoyed every part of this.
I did too. It was fun. It wasn't like I said, it wasn't anything like to blow you away, but it was a nice, refreshing, old fashioned wrestling kind of match. It had your gimmicks going crazy and the storytelling again just hilarious. So yeah, it was fun. After that, we got into a little bit more seriousness. We had, for some reason, in the middle of the card, we had the Women's World Championship match with Rhea Ripley and Ivy Nile.
Yeah.
Which, again, more foreshadowing that she didn't win the title off of Rhea because one, it was in the middle of the freaking card. I thought not in the middle, but it was in a weird spot in the match in the card. So
it was in a weird spot,
odd. So I thought that was odd. And so again, video packages to explain who she is. Because nobody knows who Ivy Nile is. Had to remind them.
Yeah, it's like, who are you and what are you doing here?
Exactly. So, but that match was actually I feel was up there for match of the night because it was a lot of action. Ivy's really good in the ring. and her and Rhea worked really well together. Rhea just trying to dominate as she does, but again, Ivy had the crowd behind her, showcased her strength. Of course, Rhea takes over to the picture, starts manhandling her. So again, playing into that, toughness of Rhea and how strong she is. But again, lots of momentum shifts. Ivy still showing strong. There's a second rope German suplex, which was bananas. A good close with was it Rhea retaining, of course. So good and close match. Rhea retained, of course, but she hit that. She had to get aggressive with it, right? So she hit the headbutt, a vicious headbutt, followed by a nasty knee, and then the riptide. And then what I actually liked about it is, if you notice, whenever Rhea wins, she likes to stand over her opponent and like raise the title. And Ivy didn't let her do that. I don't know if that was legit or part of the character building, but Ivy rolling out and not letting her do that was pretty interesting. But one of those small notes, one of those minor details, but I feel like it will probably be one of those things that comes to light or adds to something later. So that was something to kind of think about.
So well, the match I thought was very good. They're obviously both very talented. Ivy Niles extremely talented. Rhea Ripley's very talented. So the match itself was good. This did feel like an indictment of the WWE going, hey, we didn't do anything to build this up or explain who Ivy Nile is. And so then they went into overdrive trying to catch everyone up on, oh, by the way, who's this person fighting for the the women's world title tonight? All of a sudden. And it was funny because you saw the video package with Ivy Nile, kind of explaining who she is. Then as she got out, like the whole time Michael Cole's doing like fun facts. He's all like, for those of you not familiar with Ivy Nile, she's trained in jiu-jitsu, CrossFit, like CrossFit's like a martial art. She's trained in CrossFit, and claims she is an artist, quote, fighting on my own canvas. Look, whatever the hell that means. I was like, you're an artist fighting on your own canvas. And then he kept going, like, he was like, did you know Ivy Nile warms up with 100-pound sandbags? And it's like, okay, like you are so blatantly, obviously, hey, we have told you nothing about this person, so we're just going to run through. And then I think Wade Barrett jumped in at one point and goes, she's only wrestled twice on Raw, and one was a women's battle royale and one was a tag match for the tag team turmoil. And they're all pointing out, yeah, we know you guys have no idea who she is. She was really good on NXT, and it was just like, okay, it's too late to try to catch everybody up now.
Yeah.
And yes, it makes zero sense that she's fighting for the title because she's not a contender. She's not the number one contender. She hasn't done anything to earn that. But they were constantly trying to catch everyone up and explain it, which took away from the match because the match was really, really good. And I think with the proper build-up, this could have been a great match. It was just it felt rushed and it felt kind of forced. And so you knew Rhea Ripley was going to retain it. She's not going to lose to this person that they haven't spent any time building her up on. Yeah. So it wasn't fair. I don't think it was fair to Ivy Nile because she's very talented. And I think she's got a good career there, and she has the ability to kind of move into these higher profile matches. But the whole thing just felt rushed.
It did. I wasn't too big of a fan of how they just kind of threw it together. I feel it was very sloppily done. So, I mean, I just, I enjoyed the match, but Ivy showed strong. She did. I give her credit for that. She didn't just get pummeled and, was in a squash match, which is good. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like you said, I mean, them having to shove all these facts down your throat last minute, it does take away a little bit. But nonetheless, entertaining match. Yeah. Then goes into the next segment, which everyone is still talking about. The return of a former WWE champion. Now, I like the little Triple H swerve and it being Jinder Mahal. The crowd was so freaking deflated. Like, you just feel the energy just go. Because they're like, it's Jinder. And so he comes out. And then he...
Well, and you knew this was like... There was something coming. Like, you knew it wasn't just going to be like, haha, it's just Jinder Mahal. Because it was Raw Day 1. But I did like, appreciate the setup.
I liked it. I feel like Jinder's promo went a little too long for my liking. Especially because it wasn't anything of substance. It was just your typical foreign heel promo. Like, oh, America. Yeah. Oh, America. And like, oh, the Sheik would understand. It's like, no, he doesn't. So, and he's like, see, you booed your own. The only thing I thought was clever was when he got the crowd to boo the national anthem because he was saying it in Punjabi. I was like, okay, like golf clap, touche, Mr. Mahal.
Yeah.
But then, of course, it's clever. It is. It's clever. But after that, of course, Rock's music hits and the whole crowd just loses it, and myself included. But I was happy to see that, excited to see that. Wasn't when I saw the announcement leaked on Twitter, I honestly thought it was probably going to be someone like Stone Cold to come out, or maybe even Shawn
I know you
Michaels.
mentioned Brock Lesnar like the week before, like Brock Lesnar
Lesnar
might return, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that too.
So yeah, I tried to stay away from everything just to be like, let's see who it is. Let's see if anything happens.
So it was cool. It was cool. He came down, and of course he still got it. Runs down Jinder like nobody's business, which was hilarious and awesome. Still got some promo chops. I don't think that ever goes away. And then hits, of course, beats up Jinder, hits him with the people's elbow, all that good stuff, showing he can still go in the ring, but you could tell the conditioning wasn't there because poor Rocky was gassed after he tried to talk after.
I have that in my notes too. I was like, he got blown up, completely blown up after just kind of taking some punches, and then he hit the spine buster, and then when he hit the spine buster, he kind of popped up slowly. I was like, oh, The Rock can't just pop up from a spine buster. He's in his 50s. And then when he hit the people's elbow, he was like completely gassed at that point. But
so he had to catch his breath. But what I really enjoyed was what he did after. So of course he's telling him, thank you, you guys are great, I'm gonna go get something to eat. He's like, and when The Rock goes out to eat, I need your advice. Should I sit at a booth? And I think the whole crowd was just lost. They were like, it's not one of your catchphrases. What are you doing? He's like, should I sit at the bar? And you had some people like, woo. He's like, yeah, I like the bar. But then he just like looks in the camera and just gets serious and is like, or should I sit at the head of the table? And I was like, oh yes, what I've been waiting for is this moment for him to get at Roman. I don't think it would be for the title, because it would be very careless of WWE to give the title again to The Rock. I love The Rock. Don't get me wrong. I love him. I think he's awesome. I think he's a great wrestler. One of the best in my opinion. However, he doesn't have the time to dedicate to be a champion for WWE. And he's acknowledged that before. So the question remains, when and where? And I will go on record here. And my guess would be that it's somewhere like at Elimination Chamber, where it's maybe a non-title match. Just maybe it's one of those winner takes over the head of the table kind of match, like the one like what he kind of did with Jimmy, or was it Jay? No, he did with Jay, for the top rank, right? I think it was Jay, but kind of like what they did like that. I think would be great. That would be nice, and I have a feeling it would be at Elimination Chamber, not Royal Rumble, because as we found out on Smackdown, he's going to be busy. So, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that pans out and how that plays along. But I'm excited for it. I'd love to see that, Roman and Rock kind of go at it just for, I think that's more of just like an attraction thing. Only other reason I want to say Elimination Chamber, sorry, I'll let you go right now. The only reason I say Elimination Chamber is because it's going to be happening in Australia. And the Australia government, who paid to have him come out, they've asked the WWE if they can bring The Rock. So that's where I think the WWE kind of
makes sense.
Does their due diligence, right? May not be a guarantee. I'm just guessing, but that would, if I had to guess, that's where my money would be on that one.
Yeah. So you and I felt a little differently about this one. So I'll say there's good and bad.
Yeah.
The good is, everyone who doesn't love seeing The Rock. The Rock is great. The Rock has tons of charisma. He can still do it on the mic. He's a natural there. It's always exciting. The crowd went bananas for him because, of course, it's The Rock and they're in San Diego. I thought the segment went on it was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
This was a 20-minute segment because I went back and checked and I was like, it went on way too long. It went on about 10 minutes too long. They should have kept it like a tight 10 minutes at max. So there were points where it dragged. Even though The Rock is so good, like Jinder Mahal, it felt a little cheap. It's like he's just out there, like you talked about, he's doing the heel shtick of like, America sucks. And The Rock's like, The Rock loves America. The Rock's a real patriot. And it's like, okay, cool. And he's like, you're not going to make fun of America, and you're not going to make fun of San Diego. And it's like, okay, all right, yeah, cool. And then they just kept going. And then he's like calling him an a-hole and calling him the day one D-bag. And he's doing all of this. And it's kind of like, okay, and then The Rock's going to get him to chant on this side. They're going to say day one. And on this side, I'm like, okay, guys, like wrap it up. It was like, this is going nowhere fast. And then there were some cringy moments, like him singing his version of the national anthem, talking about beating up Jinder Mahal. And I was like, okay, this is kind of going on. Like, it's getting a little much.
Yeah.
So by the time it got to him doing the whole, all right, everybody, hey, San Diego, love you. And his voice was kind of blown out at that point. And he's like, so, yeah, The Rock's going to get some dinner. And The Rock's hungry. And, when The Rock goes out to eat, is The Rock going to sit in a booth? And I was like, is he setting up a dad joke? Like, what is he doing here? And then finally when he got to the head of the table thing, and I felt like the crowd, where I was like, okay, where's he going with this? And it was just like, okay, dude, like, you're almost wearing out your welcome here because you're talking so much. And then when he said the head of the table thing, I was like, oh no. Like, because for me, it was like, we already have 3 people waiting in line for their shot at Roman Reigns, which was LA Knight, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles, and now The Rock. It's like, okay, so everyone's calling out Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And I feel like now you're going to bypass all of them because you're like, well, it's The Rock. So we got to bypass. We got to wrap all those storylines up really quickly. And I was like, oh, can we just I would really like to let the Randy Orton story breathe a little bit, but clearly that's not going to be the case because they got to get The Rock. And then I'm like, well, does The Rock come back and win at the Royal Rumble? Because that's like the other rumor too now, that he's going to win at Royal Rumble and challenge. And I'm like, well, no, but CM Punk would probably need to win at the Rumble. So now Cody Rhodes is definitely not winning at the Rumble because you're gonna jog out one of these other guys to do it. There's too many things happening. Then the other thing was, why is he coming out on Raw to call out somebody on SmackDown? Like his whole point was to come out and call out someone on SmackDown. I'm like, he's not even on the same show. So, and I get because it's Raw day one, but I was just kind of scratching my head afterwards, going, I don't know how I feel about this playing out, and then who it pushes to the back of the line now. Because you had talked before about Jim main event Jey Uso, and so Jey I think they did have big things slated for him, and then they signed CM. Move on from somebody, and we got to push somebody to the back of the line. Sorry, Jey, you're last one in, first one out, and actually, he's getting relegated back to a tag team. That's how it feels, and I'm like, oh, okay. So now you're going to bring back The Rock and let him run a program. So you're pushing people to the back of the line, and it's just like, I don't want to do the part-time thing. Let some of these guys who have been here and who have been putting in the work, let LA Knight have a run. Let Randy Orton, now that he's back, and we're excited to have him back, and AJ Styles, we're excited to have him back, and they're going to be running full time. Let them have the spotlight. But and I know The Rock's a big draw. Of course, you're going to build something up for him. It just feels like, give it a couple of months. Like, space some of these big announcements out. Or if you wanted to have him just be a surprise entrant at the Rumble, have him be a surprise entrant at the Rumble. Like, do that. But
but see, here's the thing.
Anyways, I was just had mixed feelings.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense. It makes sense. But see, like, to me, I feel that Jay was up for big things, and then they signed Cody. Cody got Jay pushed back, I feel. And then Cody was going to make his run. Then CM Punk came back, and that's who CM Punk pushed back.
And pushed them both back.
Yeah. So now I feel that, Jay's going to go back to being the tag team because now they're making Jimmy kind of like the stooge and the bloodline. So chances are that's what's going to happen. But I think, in my opinion, and not that this is what's going to happen, but I feel the only person that it would make sense for the crowd and for fans' sake that would get the best pop, best reaction, the only person that can take that title off of Roman is Cody. And I think that's what needs to happen. How they get there, I don't know. But I feel like that would be the only one that would make sense because Cody, came back stronger than ever with his new gimmick. I'm glad they let him keep it as the American Nightmare. I'm really glad they did. And he's been doing awesome. Of course, he does great work with anybody. He's not going to complain. He's just happy to be back. But I think if anyone's going to take that title off of Romans, it has to be Cody. I don't want to see CM Punk do it. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to see Jay do it.
Oh yeah, no, honestly. I definitely don't want to see CM Punk do it.
And I mean, Jay would again now, and then The Rock. I love The Rock, but let that be like a one-off on the side. Maybe fight for the head of the table or something. Make that
Yeah.
let him put
Do it as a
Roman over.
WrestleMania special attraction thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like let him put Roman over because that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna put Roman over, and let him do that so Roman can be like, "See, I am the head of the table." So it builds him up as a bigger, even bigger super heel, so that when Cody does beat him, it seems more monumental. But we'll see. We'll see. Speaking of number one contenders, that the number one contenders for the WWE Women's Tag Championship with Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark versus Natalya and Tegan Nox. Not sure if this was a good spot for it on the card. I feel that this should have probably swapped places with the Rhea Ripley match. I don't know. I don't like it as a co-main event because it just wasn't. It wasn't even a competitive match, to be honest with you. Again, picture-in-picture, commercial break at the start of the match. Shayna and Zoe just being obviously aggressive. They're the heels in this, pushing hard. Natalya took most of the punishment. Tegan tagged in after the break just to run through everybody looking strong. But again, they just made light work of them. Shayna and Zoe took the easy win. And then if you notice, I don't know if it was intentional. Maybe she got hurt or what. But Natalya does walk off at the end of the match. She does roll out and walk off. So I don't know if maybe that's a possible turn coming, like we were saying. Maybe they finally break up that tag team and let Tegan be a solo competitor. I hope so, because she's a great wrestler. I think she's awesome. She's a great performer. So, I mean, but again, this was just kind of like a blow off, and I feel that swapping this with the Women's World Championship probably would have been a better decision. I just don't feel this match had that much really going on for it. So, I don't know.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, I think they did this intentionally because of The Rock, because the arena was quiet. Like he sucked all the air out. Like everyone was going so crazy for The Rock for 20 minutes that you could have heard a pin drop during this match. Like nobody was reacting. When they did the count, it was like 1, 2, 3. Nobody cheered. It was over. Like I was watching it going, wow, nobody cared. Everybody, like the whole arena, all the energy got sucked out of the arena. And so you could hear everything that was going on. It seemed like an afterthought. It really seemed like a palate cleanser, like filler, like between matches. So I kind of understand why they didn't have the women's world title here, because they were like, well, who's going to follow The Rock? Let's throw this in here. So that way we also create a little bit of space between the main event and The Rock. Who can we sacrifice? Because I was like, man, nobody is into this at all, and nobody's cheering and nobody cares. But how do you follow The Rock? So I feel like it was a little intentional, and it was just like, it's a hard act to follow, and exactly what we thought would happen. I was like, it wouldn't have made sense for Tegan Nox and Natalya to win here. No. Obviously, you got Zoe Stark and Baszler moving on to face. I'm assuming at some point Carter and Chance or Katana and I don't know what they're calling themselves. Which we saw this very
that club. Yeah.
They ever leave the club. Like we saw this very awkward promo earlier where they were like, "We knew we'd find you." Where it was Piper and Green looking for them. Like, "We knew we'd find you here." I was like, "What, in the fakest looking backstage club that you could find?" Because this isn't a real club. It's like this is clearly a bunch of wrestlers backstage with like a black curtain up. And I was like, "Okay," but everything is like throws a drink in her face. We're gonna face anyone. We're gonna be fighting champions, but first we're gonna party. And then they dance in slow motion, and it's like some weird song playing, and then they cut out. If that's what their gimmick is gonna be, like slow-mo raving, they gotta find another gimmick.
They're the party crew. I mean, look at their finishers are the keg stand. I mean, it is. But I felt
touche.
I felt that that promo, I forgot about it, honestly. I didn't. I was just like,
it was seared in my memory.
But see, here's the thing: their faces. Why did they throw drinks at people? That's a heel thing to do.
Yeah, they do a lot of heel tactics for a couple of faces. It's like but everything that's like the new thing now. It's like everyone blurs the lines where everyone's an anti-hero and everyone's like being disrespectful or edgy, and it's like, okay, don't do all the heel tactics. And I was just more off put by it's like we got the one velvet rope. It's like the black curtain and then the one velvet rope and the security guy and then one DJ with the turntables. And I'm like, okay, this is obviously not a club.
He was the most into
it. Yeah, he was like, oh, my time to shine. He's like the local guy that they're like, hey, he's like, hey, if you need any local wrestlers to help warm up the crowd, and they're like, we got something for you, and they put him on the turntables, and he's like, all right.
I bet you he wrestles.
Any publicity is good publicity. Yeah.
Yeah. His gimmick's a DJ in the ring.
Hey, work for John Cena's got a rapper gimmick. Hey, you never know.
Hey, you know what? I felt like all that promo needed, it was just missing one thing or two things, and that was Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan. That's who it was missing.
Exactly. That would have been perfect. And you know what? Perfect. They like to do crossovers with celebrities, so I'm surprised they didn't make that happen.
Had them just turn around and just be like,
like, hey, what's going on? It's the champs.
I love it. But anywho, we got to serious business after that with the main event, it being the heavyweight championship match, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. Now, I really enjoyed this match because I feel like this match told a story. I'm a fan when wrestling tells us, when the match itself tells the story, right? So again, Sami Zayn wasn't going to go because right before they show that he got hurt during the house show and needed stitches. So clearly he wasn't going to interfere. So there went my prediction on that one. However,
I saw that too. I was like, man, I guess Sammy's not interfering because they showed like all the staples. And
that
I was
looked
like,
nasty. Yeah, hopefully he gets better soon because that sucked. But so again, both men just starting off very aggressive, which is good. I think the crowd needed that because, like you said, they needed to wake up from getting that energy sucked out of them. And so, they started out aggressive, going back and forth, fast paced, and then picture time. It's like the ref tells them, "Hey guys, it's an ad break," and then Drew just hits like starts taking control, slows the match down. They start doing more rest holds, catching their breath. But Seth's still fighting back, showing strong still showing that weakness in his back. I don't know how long they're going to keep pushing that or keep selling that, but he's still showing his back. Couldn't execute the power bomb without collapsing, the buckle bomb or whatever. Then more picture-in-picture breaks, right? But what I did enjoy watching was Seth nailed a nice reversal on the Claymore into like a sit-down power bomb, and then did the pedigree, and then kicked out of it. But then we had what you claimed, which was Damian Priest coming in for a cash-in, trying to make it like a...
Almost.
But see, here's the thing. Here's where the storytelling continues. Seth won his championship off of Money in the Bank when he interfered and turned the Roman Lesnar match at WrestleMania into a triple threat, and that's how he ended up winning. So it was cool to see a callback to that, and Damian Priest coming out trying to do the same thing, but not able to, of course, because eats a Claymore. He hits Seth with a briefcase and goes to cash in, but then eats a Claymore before he could. So he keeps the briefcase. It has not been cashed in yet, so he still has it. And then if you notice, one of the other parts of the storytelling is that Drew hits that Claymore on Seth after getting hit with the Money in the Bank briefcase, but he rolls him up so aggressively. He rolls his foot onto the rope. So like I don't think Seth put his foot on the rope. It's Drew with that.
It was Drew putting his foot on the rope.
Yeah, and his foot got on the rope, and that kind of ties into the whole of Drew beating Drew, right? Like he's his own worst enemy. He's beating himself, and in doing so, he cost himself the title because Seth was out. That would have been a 3 count had he not pulled Seth's leg so far over. And then, of course, from there, Seth does hit the pedigree on the announce desk, and then gets him in the ring stomp, end of match. Which good way to end it. Seth should retain. I not a fan of them not changing titles on like a Raw or Smackdown. I think you should every once in a while, but this was an instance where you really didn't want to. Even with the cash in, I don't think it was needed yet. Save it for like a big pay-per-view pop, I feel. But I thought it was a good match. A nice storytelling in that part, little callbacks, and again, Drew just beating himself. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good match. I was bummed they didn't actually. I was like, I almost called this one. But the couple of problems that I had with it was now you've had it be 2 failed attempts at a cash in for Damian Priest. So he's like tried and failed twice now. And I'm like, okay, so which is it? Is he a senior Money in the Bank? Is he one half of the undisputed tag champions, an elite tag champions, or is he too dumb to pull off a cash in? Because now he seems a little bumbling. Because I'm like, you went down there with Dominic, like why wouldn't you bring the whole crew with you? Where's Finn Balor? Why, like, you didn't bring the whole entourage to make sure that nothing happened? Like, now it's starting to seem just a little silly that he can't figure out how to cash in, and he can't do it in a way that's going to be successful. So either he's really great and really tactical and awesome, or he's not, or he's an idiot. The other piece with that was when Seth Rollins' foot got put on the rope.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I'm like, Drew, just pull him back like 2 inches. And it's still over because he got hit in the head with the briefcase and he got the Claymore. So literally just go like that, just lean back, and the match is over. The fact that he's like, oh, and he's like, I can't believe this. And then he grabs him and rolls him out. Let me do more punishment to him. It's like, just cover him again. Like that scene. Now I get that it's the whole Drew is starting to lose his mind thing. And for me, it's like, okay, that kind of helps a little bit. But I was also like, dude, just literally just shift him like an inch and you've won the match. But they've kind of shown that where he lost it against Sami Zayn, and then he lost it against Jay. So that kind of makes sense where he would just, okay, common sense went out the window. But I think you're right. Like the right thing here is to have Seth retain, and then it seems like the natural progression. They're trying to build towards him and CM Punk for the World Championship. Like they've been pushing that rivalry the whole time. So to have him drop it here wouldn't make a ton of sense. And I think that no matter what happens in the Royal Rumble, because I think the first initial thought was CM Punk would win it. Even if CM Punk doesn't win the Rumble, you have to imagine they're just going to move into a rivalry with Seth Rollins. Like he wouldn't have to have that title shot. They'd make it happen anyway. But you know, still a really good match, a really good way to close out the show. This close, very, very close with my prediction, but didn't quite work out.
Almost, but yeah, I mean, it was a decent show. Like I said, I like the use of former pay-per-views because this was a pay-per-view at one point, or I'm sorry, what do they call it now?
Premium live event.
Premium live event. There we go. Premium live event. Again, they're not going to use that anymore. So, you know, instead of having a boatload of premium live events, they, you know, you have to make it like a special. And this version of Raw did seem a little bit more special, a little more high stakes. I know that the picture-in-picture commercial breaks were kind of a nuisance, but again, better than just going to a flat-out commercial break. So they had plenty of those. The action was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think this was a pretty decent show, so I'd probably give it a B.
Yeah, I think so. I'd give it a B as well. I mean, some of the pacing was funky with the I mean, obviously having the Rock back was awesome, but you know, 20 minutes long. Is a little much. Yeah. There were some opportunities there. Yeah. But I thought overall it was a pretty good show. And then we'll dive into SmackDown. And SmackDown started with a flashback to Raw. Which is the funny thing. I was like, the first thing is, hey, The Rock came out on Raw, which I'm like, well, yeah, because he called out a guy who was on a different show. And so the opening was just, here's what happened on Raw, and here's the little highlight package of The Rock and Jinder Mahal. And then they cut to Roman Reigns getting out of the limousine, and he gets out of the limo, and I think at least when I saw it, like the backstage reporter's mic cut out where you couldn't hear her. And so she was like, and then she kind of finishes the sentence and holds the microphone. So you knew she was asking him, like, what do you have to say about The Rock? But it kind of cut out. And then he goes, ha, 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 and just laughs and walks off. And so it's like, oh, Roman's not really worried about The Rock. Yeah. He just laughed and walked away. And then Paul Heyman went like, and then walked away too. And then after that very awkward exchange, immediately into the U.S. Championship tournament finale, which I didn't realize was going to kick off the show, Kevin Owens versus Santos Escobar. Yeah, I'm glad it did. I was like, this is a good way to start off. Of course, the place went nuts for KO because they're in Canada and he's Canadian, so they got to cheer for their own. So they went bananas. That's right. Santos was escorted by Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, which, as we saw before, they're all working together, so they came down. But like right before the match began, Garza and Carrillo were attacked by Wild and was it Del Toro from the LWO, kind of jumped them and then cleared it out. So it looked like he was going to have the advantage. And then they all kind of cleared each other out. So it was just going to be one-on-one KO versus Santos Escobar. Also, one thing that you called Big D was that Logan Paul would be there in person, live in living color. And, of course, he was. So he comes walking down to the ring and is on guest commentary.
Good camera angle.
in his Prime drink, and he mentioned Prime and mentioned the name drop the people that he was working with on Prime, and sitting ringside, providing nothing in common. It was sort of like if I had to hear Corey Graves say one more time, hey, "You're not really concerned at all about KO, or you're not really concerned about what he could do," and he's like, "No." And then Corey Graves would go, like, "Are you sure? Did you see that senton? That was incredible. Are you sure you're not really concerned?" He's like, "Not really." And I'm like, give him something, man. So it was a lot of that on commentary. The match itself was awesome, obviously. It was really great. There was 2 very long commercial breaks during it with that were not picture in picture. So which was unfortunate. I was like, it was a really good match from what we got to see because they kept cutting away. Full of action. KO did hit his former finisher at one point, the pop-up powerbomb, so I guess he doesn't have a back injury or something that's stopping him from doing it, because we were talking about, hey, why did he move to the stunner? Why is he not doing the pop-up powerbomb anymore? Well, he did it, but now I guess it's just a signature move. But this one was really great. Obviously, KO won, as we both predicted. KO was going to win. It makes perfect sense. Logan Paul then goes into the ring trying to talk trash very poorly, and then catches the cast to the face from KO and knocks him down, knocks him out. And, of course, KO is going to advance, and he's going to face Logan Paul at the Rumble. This whole thing took a quarter of the show. It was about half an hour is what this took. So I'm like, in a 2-hour show, a quarter of it was dedicated to this. I wish there had been fewer commercial breaks during what was a really great match. But a good way to start off.
It was. I enjoyed the match. I thought it was good. Logan Paul on commentary is just brutal and torturous. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is, right?
And it's not again, because we're hating on Logan Paul.
No.
Well, it's he's not great on commentary. Yeah. I mean, we don't like him, but he's not great on commentary.
I just don't like him. So whatever. But yeah. And then at the end of the match where he's like, he can't win the U.S. title. He's Canadian. I'm like, oh, who told you to say that? Who told you to say that? Because they want to bet that you would actually.
What about all those Americans who held the European Championship all those years? Right? I'm like, come on, seriously.
Yeah, God, but whatever. So again, I think this was a good match, a good showing for both competitors. Again, I just couldn't see Santos winning with the heat you got with Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. I think having Del Toro and Wilde interfere was a bit early. I think they should have waited just a little bit to maybe give Garza and what's his name? Sorry, the chance to interfere. You know, give them both the chance to interfere first, and then have Del Toro and Wilde come out and make the save, brawl back out, because they pretty much just from the get brawled up the ramp and just brawled they just ended up in the backstage area.
Yeah, so it was just like they were just gone. Yeah, they swept them away.
But again, I enjoyed the match. I thought it was good. I'm happy that KO won, and I'm pretty confident that KO is gonna win the U.S. Championship. So thankfully, that'll be over with Logan Paul.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know. They could throw a swerve. And then they already announced for Smackdown next week is Garza and Carrillo are going to be tagging against Wilde and Del Toro. So it's like, I guess that they've swept them into the back, and then they'll sweep them out next week, and they'll face each other. So that should be a good one.
It'd be funny. Wouldn't it be hilarious?
Next up was...
real quick. Wouldn't it be funny if, to start that match, they come brawling out and down the ramp?
They just come brawling back down. Yeah. They're in the same clothes.
The same clothes. They just brawl.
They've been fighting the entire week. And just be like, here's what happened earlier in the week, and they just show backstage they're fighting each other, and then they just keep going back down.
Do it like Peter Griffin and the Chicken.
That'd be hilarious.
They just brawl into different things.
Yeah. That would be hilarious. I don't think they have that good of a sense of humor, but hey, if you're listening out there, WWE, we're giving you gold. These are gold ideas. After that, Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits came out just to talk for a little bit. Lashley talked about 2024 not being a great year for him, other than his new buddies, the Street Profits, and they all high-fived each other. And then he was like, this year's going to be different. And starting with the Royal Rumble. So Bobby Lashley officially declared for the Royal Rumble match. And then the lights started going out. and then Karrion Kross and Scarlett were at the top of the stage, and then Paul Ellerling walked out, and they're like, "Wait a second," which was obvious. Like they had already telegraphed that AOP was coming back. So, and they had already telegraphed it with Karrion Kross. So this wasn't a huge surprise. But of course, AOP's back. And then they jump into the ring and they attacked Lashley and the Street Profits. And then AOP hit the Street Profits with the Super Collider, which for me is it's not the most awesome move because they kind of just touch backs and then drop them. Like it could be cooler. There's just almost no impact on the collision. But they hit the Super Collider, and then Karrion Kross hit the downward spiral on Lashley. So I guess Kross and Lashley are going to be rivals at this point. So they were standing tall, and it was like the surprise that was not a surprise. AOP's back.
I mean, we saw it coming, and I'm happy. I've always been a fan of AOP. I like classic tag teams. I like people that join in and they're a tag team already. They have a story together. And Paul Ellering is awesome as a manager. He's gonna help Karrion Kross, I feel, and I'm hoping this is one of those things that helps skyrocket Karrion Kross back up. Maybe not to championship title, but maybe because he was a former NXT champion. In NXT, he dominated. He killed it. One of the best entrances ever. I loved it, but they just didn't know what to do with him. So I feel that this would be a good way for him to maybe be a competitor for Intercontinental title, for the Intercontinental title. I said that one, Intercontinental, the United States title. That'd be a good way to do that. Or they can create a triples title, which would be awesome because now you have Lashley and the Street Profits. Cool. You can pair up Gargano, or you can pair up DIY with the Miz. That'd be a pretty cool little team there. So you have a few trios already and going in, so that would be kind of interesting. But again, I was a fan of it. I was happy to see AOP back. Yeah, they pretty much told us already that it was going to happen, but I'm glad it did, and I'm happy with Karrion Kross because I'm a fan of Karrion Kross, so I like it.
Yeah, I think it'll be nice to have them back, and I do like actual tag teams, like teams that actually wear matching unis and have a name. Yeah, we're looking at you, Carter and Chance. Actually, come up with a gimmick that's not just raving, but it's nice to have them back. And then after this was we went right into the WWE Women's Championship, and that was between Michin and Io Sky. So this one was kind of funny when it started because Michin was accompanied by Gallows and Anderson, and then they're just like, bye. Like they just go to the top of the ramp. It's like they're seeing them off on an airplane. It's like, oh, hug it. All right, have a nice trip. And they just turn around and walk back. And then Io Sky was accompanied by Damage Control, which did the same thing. They were at the top of the ramp, and they're just like, bye, and then waved bye to her. And so there was nobody ringside. It was just Michin and Io Sky in a straight up wrestling match with no shenanigans and no silliness. Nice and it was a really good match. Yeah, I was like, hey, there's no silliness. There's no shenanigans where Damage Control's having to help Io Sky at any point. She just went out and they wrestled a really good match. And very entertaining. There was a German suplex on the ring apron from Io Sky. And I laughed because Corey Graves reminded us that the apron is the hardest part of the ring. So as soon as he said it, I was like, that's what me and Big D have been saying forever. For those of you who don't know, Big D and I, we do color commentary and play-by-play for Lucha Frontera in El Paso. So we do tend to call that out as it's more of like a joke. Every time that happens, we tend to call out that, hey, do you know the ring apron is the hardest part of the ring? And so hearing Corey Graves say it, because it is like, not the metal poles, not any of that. It's that ring apron's the hardest part of the ring. So I couldn't help but laugh about that. But and that gets called out quite a bit. But this one was fun. Michin hit a Styles Clash from the second rope, which was cool. Io Sky, of course, ends up being victorious. She hit the over the moonsault for the win, clean as a whistle. This one I really enjoyed. I didn't really expect them to change titles unless it was going to be, my prediction was, hey, does Bayley possibly cost her? And Damage Control, continues on the path of, hey, is Bayley going to be our leader or not? None of that happened. It was just a straight up wrestling match, and I couldn't have been happier.
Yeah, I really am glad that they did that. I'm glad they let them both just go at it, and it really showed that Michin's really underutilized. I mean, even beforehand
Yeah.
when she was when she was wrestling solo, like she just before she even got with Gallows Anderson and AJ Styles, like she just did awesome. She always did awesome. She is a great wrestler, great competitor, and she really can put on a good match. I think she showcased that. That second rope Styles clash was awesome. Was fantastic.
Yeah,
And
it was
so,
super cool.
I mean,
Well, and
it
I
was
was
a
like,
good
wait a
match.
second, she's going for the Styles Clash.
Yeah, it was
She
really
started
cool.
she started hooking the arms, and I was like, oh, holy crap, she's
Yeah.
gonna go for it.
Yep, I liked all of it. It was great. I mean, again, we knew that EO was retaining, obviously, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, good times. Io retains, and then right after this, we moved into like there was like a weird backstage promo of Paul Heyman talking to the camera about The Rock. And something about The Rock wanting a seat at the head of the table, but he's not even invited to dinner. And talking about all the people that didn't beat Roman Reigns. It wasn't Heyman's best. So I will put it this way. I was like, it was pretty weak for a Paul Heyman promo. And I didn't think it was really necessary. It's like, dude, they could have cut that whole segment out, just saved a little bit of time, saved a commercial break. But it just felt a little weak, having him kind of run down the camera a little bit and kind of use some old tired cliches. So I could have done without that part.
Yeah, I mean, I get what they're trying to do with it, and of course, talking about the dinner of relevancy, which is hilarious to say.
Yeah.
Like, you're not invited to the dinner of relevancy. How does one get invited to the dinner of relevancy? Because that's what I
I
want.
know. How does
What
one get
is
an invitation to the dinner of relevancy?
what
That's
is
what I was like,
served?
what?
What is served at the dinner of
What's on the
relevancy?
menu?
Is there steak of
Is it like a
relevancy?
chef's choice?
Maybe
Yeah.
a
Is
protein
it
shake of
surf and
relevancy.
turf of relevancy? It was
Oh,
it was
Jesus,
just kind of like hearing the Rock's analogy of, hey, when the Rock's going to dinner, is he going to sit in a booth? And I was like, oh no, we're doing this sort of thing again. He's like, well, the Rock isn't invited to the dinner of relevancy. I'm like, please, Rock, don't come out on Raw next week and start doing dinner analogies anymore. Let's just drop
They
it.
will. They will.
It was just, it's too much. They probably will. But, oh, and speaking of bad promos, then we had another backstage segment with Damage Control all happy again. And then Bianca Belair just kind of interrupted to basically kind of rain on their parade. She declared for the Women's Royal Rumble, and she's like, Bailey, I'm going to beat you in the Women's Royal Rumble. And then apparently they're going to fight next week, because after that, Io Sky was basically like, hey, you know what, Bailey, you need to do something about Bianca Belair if you want your plan to work out. And then they were like, announced next week they're going to fight each other. I was like, I thought they were going to settle this at the Rumble. I guess they're settling it early. So that'll be happening on SmackDown next week. We'll stay tuned and see what happens. And then next up was Pretty Deadly versus Butch and his mystery partner. And Big D, you were right on the money here once again. You're 3 for 3 at this point on SmackDown, as Butch's partner was indeed Tyler Bate, just as you said last week. If you all didn't see it, go back and look. We have video evidence to prove this.
Yes.
And they looked really great as a team. This was a lot of fun. This was a good palate cleanser match too. Obviously, Butch and Bate have terrific chemistry with each other. They hit a double Tyler driver at the end on Prince for the win. Pretty Deadly was looking, had some pretty unwieldy costumes. They looked like a cross between like old Shawn Michaels. I was trying to think of, I was like, what are they wearing? It was like old Shawn Michaels and kind of like a Billy and Chuck vibe. I haven't thought about Billy and Chuck in a long time. So it was, it was a fun match though, and it was fun to see Butch and Tyler Bate. I'm wondering if he is going to be Pete Dunne now, because I know that was the other prediction, is does he drop the Butch thing and he just goes by Pete Dunne? But you called this one, Big D.
I mean, he came out in Pete Dunne-esque, Bruiserweight-esque, gear. So I thought that was nice to see.
Yeah.
But again, them two together are always great. I love their combination, the way they work together. I've always been a fan of both of them, to be honest with you. Tyler Bate is awesome, just strong. That man is freakishly strong. Doing the airplane spin to a squat and then the airplane spin again. Like, it's awesome. He does the old school wrestling moves. It makes him look good, Big fan of Tyler Bate. And I feel like all we were missing was Trent Seven, the good old Mustache Mountain would be reunited. But the only, and I hate to sound like this, but the only gripe I had with this is they did it as a mystery partner, and I feel like the crowd had no idea who Tyler Bate
No,
was.
they had no idea who he was. It was
weren't
like
popping
done
for
and the
him.
silence. I was like, oh man. I was like, Big D
Yeah.
was right. And I was like, oh man, nobody knows who this guy is.
No, nobody knows unless they're watching NXT UK, which I did religiously. Probably,
Yeah.
I actually preferred it a lot more than some of the other stuff, but it's another debate. It's a discussion for another day. But again, like Tyler Bate is an amazing competitor and a great in-ring worker. I'm glad he's on the main roster. Hopefully he stays there, and hopefully it stays with Pete Dunne or Butch. But again, I feel that's my only complaint is that the crowd didn't really know who he was, so they really didn't pop. I mean, they popped for like the airplane spin and stuff like that, right? But just
They
that's
warmed
the
up,
thing.
like they got behind him as the match
They
went
did.
on.
They
Obviously,
did.
they kind of saw him and they were like, "Hey, this guy's really good." And so, but to your point, as soon like I've never heard it so quiet for like
Yeah.
you'll never guess who my partner is, and the music hits and everyone's like, "Who?" Like it was kind of awkward, and he's like, "Yeah," and like oh, high energy, and I'm like, "Oh man, I feel bad for this guy because it was just like crickets."
Yeah.
But he won the crowd over.
No, but it was good. I liked it. It was great. The double team, everything perfect. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah. And then right before the main event, we had this weird backstage segment with Ashante Adonis in Nick Aldis's office, and he's just like, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I just need an I was like, what is going on? And he's like, I just want an opportunity. And he's like, I don't feel sorry for you. I know you're ready, and I've got a few ideas I think you're gonna like. And then it's just like him, and it wasn't even like he didn't go. Like he was just like sitting there staring, and then it just cut away, and I was like, "Okay, I guess we'll find out about this later." But it was just, I don't know. I this is obviously a setup for something else, but it was for me it was a little awkward.
They're going to feed him to Karrion Cross. That's what's going to happen.
Probably. I got a few jobs for you. I mean, you're going to be a jobber from here on out. And he's like, okay, as long as it gets me work. That's all. I just needed a chance. I need an opportunity. That's all I really wanted. So
The
that
reincarnation of the
awkwardness
Job Squad.
aside, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll team him up with a few other people, and they'll just go out there and lose to Authors of Pain every week or something. But we'll see how that goes. Stay tuned, everyone. It should be exciting. Main event time. So triple threat for the number one contender. I have been excited about this one all week. AJ Styles versus LA Knight versus Randy Orton. I couldn't wait to see it, and wouldn't you know, they started the main event during the commercial. Okay. This was already inexcusable. It gets an F for me because you see everyone's entrance. And then Randy Orton comes down and he's on the top of the turnbuckle doing his thing. And then they're like, all right, main event coming right up. And I'm like, okay, they're going to cut away. And then they're going to come back and they're waiting there and they're going to start the match. And you come back from commercial and they're like, oh, well, the match is underway. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, you couldn't wait and let us see the beginning of the match? And then they still cut away to commercial, like later. We got another commercial break. So they chopped up. You didn't even see the start of the main event. So that made me crazy. The parts of the match that I got to see were great. This is like the KO match at the beginning. Mm-hmm. What I got to see was excellent, and everybody got to get their stuff in. But I'm going to pause here. I'm just going to pause here, Big D, because you called this 100% correct. You go back and watch our preview show. So I'm just going to hand it to you, Big D. What happened in the main event here?
So just as we got all of those close calls, people pulling referees out, pulling people off of people from pins, finisher after finisher getting hit, comes trotting down the entrance ramp, the Bloodline, just as predicted.
Oh no, really? Who would have thought?
Roman,
who would have guessed it?
As the general that he is, commands his troops, go handle my light work. And there they go. Then everyone's fighting. Then they clear the ring, and Roman's standing tall, hands up. Yeah. Nick Aldis comes out to Paul Heyman. Hey, tell your buddy Royal Rumble's a fatal four-way. And he walked away. I'm like, okay, that was weird.
He walked away. He whispered it in his ear.
Yeah.
It was totally weird. like like so when you so you 100% correctly called this, like you said this is what's going to happen, and I was like, oh gosh, you know what, I hope they do, that would be awesome. And it played out. When I was expecting, though, like something a little bit more like the referee ringing the bell and like pandemonium, and then Nick Aldis to get on the microphone and exert some authority and be like, hey, you know
a
what,
little more
Roman?
dramatic.
And like I was expecting him to like stand up to him, a little more dramatic. Instead, it was just like Roman Reigns going like, yeah, look, I run this place. And then everyone, like on commentary, Corey Graves is like, hey, he's showing why he runs this place. And he's like, yeah, everyone, I'm the man. And then Nick Aldis like walks up to Paul Heyman and like grabs his arm. And he's like, don't grab my arm. And he grabs his arm again. He's like, hey, tell him congratulations. It's like whispers it in his ear, but with the camera right there. And I was like, this is kind of weird. And the whole time I'm thinking, the crowd doesn't know what's going on. Like he does, like no. The crowd's just booing. The crowd doesn't know. He's not talking into the microphone. Like it was so awkward.
Let me tell you why the crowd's booing. The crowd's booing because how do you have a DQ in a triple threat match?
Well, yeah, it should be no rules. So there should be no, like, it should just keep going. It should go indefinitely until you have a winner.
Mm-hmm. The match still continues.
Just like you can't have a referee stoppage in a Hell in the Cell, WWE. You can't have a referee stoppage in a Hell in a Cell. Oh, there's just too much happening here. We've got to stop this thing. You can't have it in a triple threat or a fatal four-way. It goes until the match is over. Like, you can literally do anything. You could have as many people run down there and interfere as you want to. It shouldn't stop. So, yeah, that's a bit of a cop-out. People should have been mad. But then the crowd didn't even get the satisfaction of hearing that it's going to be a fatal four-way because of the way that they did it. So everyone just probably left and was like, oh, wait a minute, they made it it's going to be a fatal four-way? Oh, I guess they must have decided that after the match. I'm like, no, he kind of whispered it in Paul Heyman's ear with the camera right there. Yeah. So that was a little strange. I appreciate, and I do think that that's probably the best outcome that they could have had because they were trying to find a way to, you're not going to make everybody look weak. They probably weren't going to put Randy Orton over AJ Styles or LA Knight. They're trying to save face with everyone. So if it just ends in like a DQ or however you want to do it, everybody had a chance to look strong, and then everybody gets an opportunity at Roman. I felt worse afterwards because The Rock came out on Raw, and I was like, oh no, this is how they're going to get through everybody. Like, because I was like, you got all these people waiting in line for Roman Reigns. He's got a ways turn. I'm like, well, not anymore. We're going to clear them all out in that fatal four-way and make way for The Rock. And I was like, seriously? Like that's going to be it? Now, to your point, Big D, though, you talked about, it doesn't mean that Roman Reigns will win. It just means that Randy Orton could pin LA Knight and become the champion. And then Roman Reigns loses, and then the title's off of him, and he can do the thing with The Rock, and he never technically lost, and now there's the fight for the head of tail. You could do that, and I would be okay with that because now it's not you're not in danger of The Rock potentially becoming a champion, not being able to really have the time commitment. So there's an opportunity there, but yeah, congratulations, Big D, 4 for 4 on SmackDown predictions. You are the Nostradamus of the squared circle. I hope you feel proud of yourself.
I do. But again, I don't want. Here's the thing, though. I don't want Roman to drop the title. He can't. I feel like it has to go to Cody.
Not until Cody or what?
Yeah, because Cody. I feel like Cody should.
I think they'll find a way. I don't know.
I think Cody should win the Rumble so he can fight Roman for the title. I think that's what should happen. Sorry. I think that's what should happen. But for the Fatal 4-Way, I mean, technically there should be no DQ, so he could have his people interfere or his two guys interfere because he doesn't have a squad anymore. He just has, himself.
Yeah, the squad is dwindling. So
yeah, exactly. So they can just go and do their work and help him get the win over, which is what they're probably going to do. But let him fight Rock, but I don't think it should be for the title. I just feel that it should go to Cody. I don't know. I mean, something in my gut tells me that's probably the more logical solution. That's probably the better option of all the competitors out there, since CM Punk's going to go after Seth Rollins' title and probably take that title. So we'll see how that one goes. But again, I enjoyed the show. I thought it was good. I was happy that I was able to predict those. I was like, I was so happy to see Tyler Bate. I think that's probably one of the highlights for me was to see him, on the main stage there. I think that was awesome. So kudos to them for doing it. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. That SmackDown was pretty good.
It was a good show. I give it a B plus. I give it was a tight 2 hours. A lot of good stuff happened. And then, that was the other thing I was wondering too about this is, are we going to get to a point now, because obviously they're trying to figure out what to do with Jay, and they've already kind of hinted that Jimmy is kind of on the fence with Roman, some of the stuff that they've been seeing. Do we see a Jay and Jimmy reunion at the Royal Rumble?
We do.
And then rather than helping Roman Reigns, do they team up to take him out? Which would be hilarious. It's like, just get them back together as a team and use that opportunity, because they've already shown there's some cracks in the union between those two. I hope they do, because I don't want to see Kofi Kingston and Jay as a tag team. I'd rather get the brothers back together, but we'll see.
Or you can have them recruit Solo, and now you have a trios group that you can include in the trios fight.
You could. Do they
still stay as the Usos because they're all brothers? They're all legit brothers.
Yeah, they could. They actually could. That'd be cool. Well, we'll see it. You heard it here first. Big D's been pretty spot on with the predictions, so we shall see. But yeah, that was Raw and SmackDown for this past week, and that's what we've got, everybody. Thank you again for all of your support. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave comments if you think that we're full of it and you want to tell us, but do it in a nice way and in a kind way. And we're always happy to debate back and forth. But we appreciate the support as always. Happy New Year, everyone, and looking forward to a exciting 2024 of pro wrestling. So hopefully you'll come along for the ride with us.
Yep. Yeah, no, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Will.
We appreciate it also. Yeah. It's going to be a fun year. I can already tell. We're going to kick it off with the Rumble.
Yeah, I'm going to kick it off with the Rumble. It's going to be a good one. Until next time, we will see you all soon. Have a great rest of your week, and so long.